Listen to me. Every single one of us has weakness inside. Every single one of us has that little voice that whispers, you can't, you're not enough, stay comfortable, stay small, play safe. And if you let that voice live, if you let that weakness breathe inside of you, it will grow like a disease, and one day it won't just slow you down, it will own you. It will take your dreams, your future, your potential, and it will bury them alive. Weakness doesn't show up as a monster with claws. No, weakness is subtle. It shows up as hesitation. It shows up as excuses. It shows up when you hit snooze on the alarm. It shows up when you say, I'll do it tomorrow. It shows up when you feel the fire inside you to move, to act, to break free, and instead of leaping, you pause. That pause is death. That pause is weakness taking control. You have to understand something. Weakness will not go away on its own. It won't politely leave. It won't bow down and say, I'll let you have your greatness. No, weakness has one mission, to destroy you, to keep you average, to keep you trapped, to make you surrender. And if you don't fight back with everything you've got, it will win. That's why you must destroy it first. Kill it before it kills your dreams. You do this by taking command of your mind. You do this by making decisions when you don't feel like it. You do this by standing tall when fear says, sit down. You do this by pushing through pain when your body screams, stop. You destroy weakness every time you act with courage in the face of doubt. You destroy it every time you choose discipline over comfort. You destroy it every time you say, I don't care how I feel. I care about who I want to become. The battle is not out there, it's in here. The war is not against the world, it's against the version of you that wants to quit, that wants to give up, that wants to hide. And every day, you decide which side wins. Every day, you either feed your power or feed your weakness. Every day, you either rise or you sink. So, if you want freedom, if you want greatness, if you want to live a life that actually matters, then you've got to step into the fire. You've got to get uncomfortable. You've got to make yourself do the things your weakness doesn't want you to do. That's how you kill it. That's how you take back control. That's how you become unstoppable. Destroy the weakness inside you, or it will destroy you. Weakness doesn't always come crashing into your life like a storm. It doesn't announce itself with sirens or flashing lights. It creeps in silently, disguised as comfort, disguised as safety, disguised as rational excuses that feel so convincing in the moment. It's that little whisper that says, not today, you're tired, you deserve a break, you'll get to it tomorrow. It's the hesitation you feel when you know you should step forward, but you stop for just a second. And in that second, momentum is gone. Opportunity slips away, and you convince yourself it wasn't meant to be. Weakness hides behind those little choices that seem harmless in isolation, but stacked together, they become chains that keep you locked in the same place year after year. Most people think weakness is obvious, that it's laziness or lack of will, but the truth is it's much more subtle, much more dangerous because it shows up as the comfortable option, the easier path, the voice that sounds reasonable. That voice says, don't risk failing, don't risk embarrassment, don't push too hard because you might get hurt. But the reality is, that voice is not protecting you. It's slowly destroying you from the inside out. Think about how many times you've had a dream, a vision, a fire inside of you to do something, and just before you acted, weakness whispered, wait, not now. That's the enemy. That's the thing holding you back, not circumstances, not lack of resources, not lack of opportunity, but the internal hesitation that convinces you to play small. Weakness doesn't shout, it whispers. It whispers every morning when the alarm goes off and you choose sleep over growth. It whispers every time you know what you need to say but stay silent. It whispers when you see a chance to change but let fear disguise itself as logic. And the most dangerous part is, you start believing that whisper, you start calling it your truth, when in reality it's the parasite eating away at your power. People sabotage themselves not because they don't want success, but because weakness convinces them they're not ready, not capable, not worthy. It convinces them to wait until conditions are perfect, when conditions are never perfect. Weakness says, when I feel confident, I'll act, but confidence doesn't come before action, it comes after action. Weakness flips the order, keeps you waiting, keeps you hesitating, and in that waiting your life passes by. The opportunity never disappeared. You just didn't move, the door didn't close. You never walked through it. Weakness disguised itself as reason, and you believed it. The danger is not in one missed moment, it's in the pattern. Because once you accept that whisper once, it becomes easier to accept it again, and again, until hesitation becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. Suddenly, you're not someone who hesitated once. You're someone who calls yourself lazy, unmotivated, or unlucky. That identity was never real. It was weakness trained into your system by small repeated choices. That's why it feels so heavy, because you've let weakness build a foundation inside you one brick at a time. You look around and wonder why you're not where you want to be. But the truth is it wasn't one big decision that held you back. It was the 1,000 small ones where you listened to the whisper instead of crushing it. Weakness is sneaky because it often wears the mask of comfort. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it kills growth. Comfort tells you that you're safe right where you are, but safe is another word for stuck. The human spirit isn't designed to stay in one place. It's designed to expand, to rise, to build, to break through limits. When you ignore that calling because comfort feels easier, you create internal conflict. You feel restless, frustrated, unsatisfied, because deep down you know you're betraying your own potential. Weakness is not just about missing opportunities. It's about creating an inner war where one part of you wants greatness and the other part of you wants ease. The one you feed will dominate. So, when you start noticing those whispers, when you feel that hesitation, don't ignore it. Call it out for what it is. It's not you. It's weakness trying to take the wheel. It's weakness trying to keep you average. It's weakness pretending to protect you while it robs you of your future. The moment you recognize it, you gain the power to crush it. Because the truth is, weakness will always whisper, but you decide whether it controls you or fuels you. That voice will never disappear completely, but you can make it irrelevant by building the muscle of action, by moving before it gets louder, by creating a pattern of doing the thing your weakness doesn't want you to do. Each time you do that, the whisper gets quieter and your strength gets louder, until one day the voice that used to hold you back no longer even gets your attention. If you don't destroy weakness, it won't just linger in the background of your life. It will expand, it will grow, and eventually it will own you. Weakness doesn't just stay the same size. It's alive, and like anything alive, it either gets stronger or it dies. If you don't kill it, you feed it. Every time you allow yourself to give in to the excuse, every time you choose comfort over discipline, every time you back down from fear instead of facing it, you're not just standing still. You're giving strength to the very thing that's trying to take you down. Weakness multiplies when you let it breathe. It doesn't stop at holding you back today. It starts shaping who you'll become tomorrow. What was once a single moment of hesitation can turn into a habit. What was once a habit can turn into a lifestyle, and that lifestyle eventually defines your destiny. That's how weakness destroys. It doesn't do it in one blow. It does it through accumulation, through quiet surrender over time. People underestimate how dangerous it is to let weakness live inside them. They think skipping the workout today won't matter, saying no to the opportunity won't matter, avoiding the hard conversation won't matter, but every little decision is a seed. Weakness is like a weed, and if you don't rip it out at the root, it spreads until it takes over the entire garden. And when it takes over, you start believing that you're powerless. You start convincing yourself that you never had the strength in the first place, when the truth is you handed it over piece by piece. That's how weakness destroys people. It makes them give away their own power willingly until one day they wake up and don't recognize themselves anymore. Weakness is not passive, it's aggressive. It wants your potential, it wants your greatness, it wants your fire. It wants you to doubt yourself so much that you never even try. It wants you to bury your dreams before you ever get close to them. And if you let it live, it doesn't just hold you back, it rewires you. You start seeing yourself through the lens of failure, through the lens of limitation. Weakness becomes your filter for life. It convinces you that other people have something you don't. It convinces you that circumstances control you. It convinces you that maybe you just weren't meant for more. And when you accept that story, weakness doesn't need to do anything else. It's already won. But here's the thing. Weakness can only survive if you feed it with indecision, with procrastination, with excuses. The moment you refuse to give it fuel, the moment you take decisive action, you starve it. You don't negotiate with weakness, you don't reason with it, you destroy it. Because if you don't, it will continue to grow until it becomes bigger than your willpower, bigger than your courage, bigger than your identity. And when it gets that big, it will convince you that change is impossible. That's when people give up, not because they're truly broken, but because weakness has been allowed to dominate them for too long. Weakness is dangerous because it feels comfortable. You don't feel the destruction in the moment, you feel relief. You don't feel the chains going on, you feel safe. You don't feel yourself getting weaker, you feel like you're avoiding pain. But that temporary relief comes with a price, and that price is your future. Because weakness doesn't take a day off, it doesn't rest, it doesn't get tired. Every time you give it ground, it builds momentum. Every time you surrender, it tightens its grip. And over time, it doesn't just destroy opportunities. It destroys your belief in yourself. And when belief is gone, action disappears with it. You can look at anyone who failed to reach their potential, and you'll see the same pattern. It wasn't lack of talent, it wasn't lack of opportunity, it wasn't bad luck. It was weakness that was never confronted. It was compromise after compromise, excuse after excuse, hesitation after hesitation, until the weight of it all crushed their drive. That's why weakness must be destroyed early. It must be confronted aggressively. It must be seen for what it is, the enemy of your destiny. Because if you allow it to remain, if you think you can coexist with it, if you think you can control it without eliminating it, you're fooling yourself. Weakness doesn't compromise, weakness doesn't settle, weakness doesn't stop until it owns you completely. So when you think skipping one step doesn't matter, remember what's really at stake. When you think taking the easy way out is harmless, remember it's not just about today, it's about who you're becoming tomorrow. Weakness is either dying inside you or it's growing, and you decide which one happens. The danger isn't that weakness shows up. The danger is what happens if you let it stay. Because if you don't destroy weakness, it will destroy you. Discipline, courage, and decisive action are the weapons that kill weakness. Weakness doesn't respond to wishing, it doesn't respond to hoping, it doesn't respond to positive thinking alone. You can't talk weakness into leaving, you have to fight it with tools stronger than it. Discipline is the structure that keeps you moving when your emotions scream to stop. Courage is the fire that makes you step forward when fear tries to paralyze you. Decisive action is the strike, the move that cuts through hesitation before weakness even has time to grow. Without these weapons, you are unarmed and weakness will always win. With them, you turn the tables, you flip the script, and you take control of the fight. Discipline is the daily armor. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, and it's rarely easy, but it's the thing that builds unshakable strength. Discipline means doing what you said you would do, long after the feeling that motivated you has disappeared. Anyone can take action when they're excited. Anyone can move when they're inspired. But discipline is the ability to act when you don't feel like it, when everything in you wants to quit, when the conditions aren't perfect. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it only asks what the mission is. Weakness thrives on emotion, but discipline neutralizes it because discipline says, I move regardless. Every time you follow through with discipline, you strip weakness of power, you starve it. You show it that feelings don't run your life. Standards do. Courage is the second weapon, and it's not about the absence of fear. It's about moving forward in spite of it. Weakness loves fear. It feeds off it. It grows stronger every time you back down. Fear is the shield weakness hides behind, but courage pierces that shield. Courage is the moment you step up to speak when your voice shakes. Courage is the moment you chase the opportunity when your mind is screaming that you're not ready. Courage is when you say yes to growth, even though you're terrified of failure. And here's the truth. Fear never fully goes away, but courage trains you to move anyway. Weakness wants you to believe that fear is the signal to stop, but courage teaches you that fear is actually the sign you're on the right path. Every time you move through fear, you kill a piece of weakness and replace it with strength. Decisive action is the strike, the weapon that ends hesitation before it can take root. Weakness doesn't need much time to grow, it only needs a pause. That little pause when you say, I'll think about it, I'll do it later, I'll wait until I feel ready. That's weakness cracking the door open. Decisive action slams that door shut. It's the ability to decide quickly, to move immediately, to act before doubt can build a case against you. The people who win in life aren't the ones who never feel fear or hesitation. They're the ones who move so quickly that fear and hesitation don't have time to lock them down. Decisive action doesn't mean reckless. It means direct, intentional, immediate. Weakness thrives in hesitation, but decisive action suffocates it. When you combine these three weapons, weakness doesn't stand a chance. Discipline keeps you consistent, courage keeps you moving forward despite fear, and decisive action keeps you from freezing. Together, they create momentum, and momentum is the most dangerous force against weakness. Once momentum builds, weakness has no space to live. That's why the first step is always the hardest, because weakness is loudest in the beginning. But once you've stacked discipline day after day, once you've proven courage by moving through fear, once you've taken enough decisive actions that hesitation no longer controls you, you create a rhythm of strength that weakness cannot interrupt. Weakness may always whisper, but discipline, courage, and action are louder. When you have these weapons sharpened, you stop being someone who occasionally wins against weakness, and you become someone who lives in power. Weakness doesn't just get destroyed in big moments, it gets destroyed in small ones. The discipline of getting up on time, the courage to face uncomfortable conversations, the decisive action of saying yes to opportunities before fear talks you out of them. Each time you use one of these weapons, you make yourself stronger and weakness weaker. So the question isn't whether weakness will show up. It will. The question is whether you've armed yourself. Have you built the discipline to move regardless of feelings? Have you cultivated the courage to act despite fear? Have you trained yourself to make decisions quickly and act without hesitation? If you have, weakness doesn't stand a chance. If you don't, weakness will find its way in. And once it's in, it will grow. The battle is fought daily, and these weapons are sharpened daily, but every time you use them, you claim another victory. Every single day you are faced with a choice, and that choice is simple. Feed your strength or feed your weakness. There is no middle ground. There is no neutral state where nothing happens, because every action, every thought, every decision is tilting the scale one way or the other. Weakness and strength are always fighting for dominance inside you, and whichever one you give attention to, whichever one you fuel with your behavior, that's the one that grows. People think they can stay the same. They think doing nothing means they're not moving. But the truth is you're always moving in one direction. Either you're reinforcing discipline, building courage, expanding your capacity, or you're reinforcing doubt, building hesitation and shrinking your capacity. Life is not static, it's dynamic, and the choices you make each day either strengthen you or weaken you. Weakness is fed when you avoid what you know you need to do. Weakness is fed when you say later instead of now, when you choose comfort over growth, when you let fear dictate your moves. Every time you make one of those choices, it feels small, it feels insignificant, but weakness grows stronger because you've given it energy. Strength is fed in the exact same way, but on the opposite side. Strength is fed every time you act in alignment with your standards, every time you move when you don't feel like it, every time you do the difficult thing instead of the easy thing. Strength doesn't grow in theory, it grows in practice. It grows in the trenches of daily decisions. You cannot expect strength to be there for you in the big moments if you have not been feeding it in the small ones. The danger comes from believing that small choices don't matter. That one skipped workout won't matter, that one broken promise to yourself won't matter, that one delay won't matter. But weakness thrives on those small cracks, and over time those cracks expand until they break you wide open. Weakness doesn't need a giant failure to take you down. It only needs repeated tiny concessions. And when you look back, you realize it wasn't one catastrophic decision that stole your strength. It was 1,000 little ones where you chose weakness over strength. On the flip side, strength is also built in small increments. The rep you didn't want to do but did anyway, the extra hour of effort when you were ready to stop, the conversation you were afraid to have but faced anyway. Each one seems small in isolation, but together they stack into unstoppable power. You've got to decide what you're feeding, because both weakness and strength are hungry. Neither of them will starve themselves. You're the one putting food on the table. Weakness feeds on excuses, on delays, on comfort, on avoidance. Strength feeds on discipline, on courage, on action, on resilience. Every time you make a choice, you're putting a plate down for one or the other, and whichever one you've been feeding consistently will dominate you. When weakness dominates, you feel it. You feel restless, unfulfilled, frustrated, because deep down you know you're not living at the level you could. When strength dominates, you feel alive, you feel powerful, you feel momentum, because you know you're in control of yourself and your destiny. The truth is, feeding weakness feels easier in the moment, but costs more in the long run. Feeding strength feels harder in the moment, but pays endlessly in the future. Weakness gives you comfort now, but pain later. Strength gives you discomfort now, but power later. And most people live their lives trading long-term power for short-term relief, and they wonder why they never feel free. It's because they've been feeding the wrong side every day. The meal you serve today becomes the master you face tomorrow. If you consistently feed weakness, you'll wake up one day realizing you've built a life ruled by it. If you consistently feed strength, you'll wake up realizing you've built a life ruled by power. So every decision becomes critical. It's not about perfection, it's about awareness. Catch yourself in those moments where weakness asks for food. When you're tired and the alarm goes off, weakness asks for another hour of sleep. Strength asks for you to rise. When fear grips you before a big move, weakness asks you to walk away. Strength asks you to step forward. When you feel like you've done enough, weakness asks you to stop. Strength asks for one more rep, one more call, one more step. And when you consistently choose to feed strength, you don't just win battles, you win the war. You train yourself to see that every decision is a chance to grow stronger or weaker, and with that awareness, you refuse to feed the thing that is trying to destroy you. Greatness is not handed to anyone. Greatness is forged in the fire of inner war, and the battleground is always the self. Inside of you, there are two forces at war every single day. The force that wants to rise, to push, to expand, to create, and the force that wants to shrink, to stay safe, to remain comfortable. One of them will win, and the one that wins will shape your entire life. You can't pretend the battle doesn't exist. You can't ignore it, because whether you acknowledge it or not, it's happening. The war isn't against the world. The war isn't against people who doubt you. The war isn't even against circumstances. The war is against the weakness inside you that wants to keep you small. And unless you are willing to destroy that weakness, it will destroy you. Weakness shows up as self, doubt as procrastination, as fear of failure, as the urge to quit when things get uncomfortable. It pretends to be logical, it pretends to be protective, but in reality it's the enemy. Weakness whispers that you shouldn't risk anything, that you should play it safe, that you should stay where you are. But every time you listen to that voice, you hand over a piece of your power. And once you start handing over pieces of yourself, eventually there's nothing left to fight with. Greatness demands that you don't just resist weakness, but that you eliminate it, that you declare war on it, that you refuse to coexist with it. You can't negotiate with weakness. You can't compromise with it. The moment you compromise, weakness takes more ground. The moment you give it a little space, it grows until it consumes the entire room. That's why people feel trapped in lives they never wanted, because they allowed weakness to settle in little by little, choice by choice, until it dominated them. Destroying weakness means cutting it off at the root. It means calling it out when it shows up, not letting it disguise itself as reason, not letting it hide under comfort, not letting it sound like common sense. Weakness will always try to speak in your voice, but you've got to learn to recognize the difference between your true power and the lies that are designed to hold you back. Greatness demands war with the self because comfort never produces growth. Every breakthrough in history came because someone decided to fight their own fear, fight their own hesitation, fight their own weakness, and act anyway. You don't become great by avoiding pain. You become great by walking through it. You don't become strong by hiding from the battle. You become strong by facing it head on. Every time you confront weakness and destroy it, you unlock another level of yourself, another layer of potential that you didn't even know was there. That's how people transform, not by avoiding the fight, but by winning it again and again. And it's not just one battle, it's every day. Weakness doesn't disappear permanently, it waits. It waits for you to get tired. It waits for you to get complacent. It waits for you to get comfortable. The moment you stop fighting, it returns. That's why greatness is a daily war. Every morning when you wake up, you decide which force you will feed, which force you will strengthen. You don't just destroy weakness once. You destroy it over and over until destroying it becomes your nature. And when that happens, you stop being someone who occasionally wins against weakness and you become someone weakness cannot touch. Greatness is not about talent, it's not about luck, it's not even about opportunity. It's about what you do with the battle inside you. The strongest people in the world aren't the ones who never feel fear or doubt. They're the ones who have learned to destroy those things when they appear. They've trained themselves to move despite fear, to push despite pain, to keep going despite doubt. That's the war, and winning that war is what creates greatness. If you lose it, if you let weakness control you, then it doesn't matter how much talent you had, how many opportunities you had, because weakness will strip it all away. The truth is, the enemy within is always more dangerous than the obstacles outside. You can overcome challenges, you can rise above circumstances, you can outwork limitations, but if you don't conquer yourself, none of it matters. That's why the greatest victory you will ever achieve is over your own weakness. When you win that battle, nothing outside can stop you. When you lose it, nothing outside can save you. Greatness demands that you destroy weakness, because weakness will never stop trying to destroy you.